I'm going to break down what a gauge is, how to know what that means, and then how to know like what size or what gauge you should get. You'll never find one better than me. You'll never find one better than me. Hey guys, what's up? It is the Teeyaskipper coming to you with another piercing care video. I'm coming to y'all from my laptop. I hope it's okay. You're here for the information anyway, right? Right. Okay, so I wanted to do a video about gauges, right? So I get people asking me all the time, like, what size gauge do you have? What size gauge did you start out with? What size gauge were you pierced with? And as people kept asking me, I'm like, I don't know what size I started out with. And so I tried to like go back and see what size my barbells were when I first got them pierced. And then I realized that while I was trying to find that, I'm like, oh wait, I don't think everybody like understands what a gauge is. And so I decided to educate myself thoroughly and then also let you guys know, just in case you think it's one thing and it's really another. So the way that I get this question the most is as if people are asking me what was the length I started with in terms of my barbells. And the length and the gauge are not the same thing. They're not the same thing. So, so if you want to know, like, okay, what length you started at, it's not the same as gauge. So that's this video is about. I'm going to break down what a gauge is, how to know what that means, and then how to know, like, what size or what gauge you should get. Before I get into this video, though, don't forget to check out Skipper's Sweet Cheeks. I'm so excited. Thank you to everybody who's already purchased. I hope you are religiously soaking your piercings, taking care of them, washing your face with love and light with my Skipper Sweet Cheeks cleanser. If you have not checked out my line yet, please do. I'm moving sites, so go check now, child, before we be offline for a little bit, because I'm moving to a different platform. But go check that out. I also have travel sizes for everyone who's about to go on these vacations, girls trips, all of that. Take it with you, sis. Take it with you, okay? All right, now let's get into this. So, y'all know I love a good clipboard, child. I love a good clipboard. Okay, here we go. Let's start with number one. So the first thing I wrote down was like, do you understand what a gauge is? If you don't, that's okay, Pooh. I'm not judging you. I'm not judging you at all. This is why we're here. So number one, doesn't have anything to do with length. A gauge has to do with the width of the piercing or the width of the piercing jewelry, okay? So when you're asking, it's a different question to ask, man, what length did you start out with versus what gauge? So when it comes to gauges, the higher the number, the thinner the piercing, the thinner the piercing jewelry. The lower the number, the thicker the jewelry or the thicker the piercing, okay? The piercing hole that's going in. So I want to make, let's put that basis there first. So if you have an 18 gauge, it's a smaller hole, it's a smaller jewelry for the piercing, sorry y'all. If you have a size 2 gauge, it's super thick and it's wide. Think of like a think about gauging your ears, right? So if you were gauging your ears and you had like a 2 gauge, think about like a thick, big, rounded like hole or earring that would go in there, right? So the smaller the number, the thicker the gauge. The higher the number, the thinner the gauge. Got it? Okay, so let me give you an example. So sometimes people ask me like, hey, did you get pierced? Do you have a 16 gauge? Did you start out with a 16? Are you a 14 now? I think they're talking about length. But if you were asking me what my gauge size is, I would say it's a 16. So my gauge size, I haven't changed it. I wouldn't change it. The holes might shrink. Like if I wanted to change it to an 18, which is a smaller hole, a smaller piercing, a smaller jewelry, my dimples might adjust. I just don't play with them like that because they already sensitive. So it's just like where we started is where we ended. Okay. So I just want to make that clear. So if you're saying like, okay, should I get a 16 or a 14? Understand a 16 gauge is thinner than 14 gauge. Why? Because the higher the number, the thinner the gauge, the lower the number, the thicker. And when I say thicker, I'm talking about the hole. I'm talking about the actual piercing. Like when the barbell goes through, the width of the barbell, not the length of it, but how wide it is. Is that clear? Okay, cool. Hope so. I believe my gauge is determined. Okay, so then the next thing is the gauge for your piercing. So depending on what you're getting pierced, it's going to be a different gauge. It's going to be a different size based on how meaty the area is, what kind of piercing it is, and it depends on your type of skin. So when a person asks me, like, what kind of gauge do you have, what size do you think I should get, it's best for your piercer to decide that and then for you to agree upon that. Okay, that's a marriage between you and the person who's doing your piercing. Now when you want to get a piercing done, I know it's so, especially once you get it in your mind. If y'all like me, when I get something in my mind, a piercing, a tattoo, a hairstyle, a nail color, child, whatever it is, I just be ready. Like, who wants to do it? Anybody? You? Okay, you got it. You got the job. Like, I just be wanting to get it done right away. But you really have to think long term with this, because these, I love them, but I call them bad little babies for a reason. You love your children, you love your babies, but you know they bad because they be acting up, they be crying sometimes, and you don't know why. You've done everything right, but they still acting up. And so to me, that's the perfect name for these. So you want to go to someone that you can keep going to if you potentially have more questions, if something goes wrong, if and when your barbells need to be shortened, if something happens and you need to go longer again to give your piercings room to heal. So you want to have a piercer that you can go to consistently, and that's also so that you can track whatever happens with your piercing. You know this is the only person you worked with. Okay, it's kind of hard to have this person do your piercing, this person change your barbell, this person to give you jewelry, this person to, like, you don't know if something happens, you don't know where it happened. Okay, so depending on the piercing that you get, your piercer is going to tell you like what gauge you can ask them, and then you can say, I was thinking of, so say for instance, you get cheek piercings and your piercer is like, I picked out a 16 gauge for you. You can say, I wanted to go with something thicker. What about a 14 gauge? Is that possible? Will that look right? So you can ask your piercer and then y'all can agree. Same thing like if you get your eyebrow pierced. Typically, the gauge of an eyebrow piercing is like a 18. Why? Because this area is really thin. It's a dainty piercing. And so you want the jewelry to be on the thinner side. So it's an 18. But say, for instance, your piercer wants to go in with a 16. You're like, I want a piercing, but I want it to be cute. I want it to be light. I want it to be dainty. Can we do an 18? And more than likely, if it fits your skin, your whole makeup, if it makes sense for your skin type, your face shape, whatever, then y'all agree on that, and that's how you know. But don't be going to different people's videos. Somebody said, what size did you get? Okay, cool, I'm going to get that size. No. Baby, this is a unique experience. You want to do what's perfectly fine for you. And while you're doing the right thing, like doing all the research, figuring out, asking all the questions and what you should be doing, so congratulations. But ultimately, once you do all that research and you find someone who wants to do your piercing, that final conversation is between you and your piercer. Okay. Also, let me tell you the difference of like getting a thinner gauge or a thicker gauge. Okay, so if you get your cheeks pierced, so let me say this first. If you want like a daintier piercing, meaning you want it to be like really light, say for instance you get a dermal or you get a nose ring, Monroe, a labrae, eyebrow piercing, your clit pierced, whatever it is that you get pierced, but you want it to be really dainty, you want to go with the higher gauge, right? Because the higher gauge is going to be thinner jewelry, a thinner piercing. The more bold you want your piercing to be, you want to go with the smaller gauge, because why? The smaller the number, the bigger the gauge. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you want your dimples pierced and you're like, I want something really cute and dainty, like, okay, then talk to your piercer and say, how small could I go in terms of like gauges? And to be honest, I wish I knew this, because for me, I really want, like, my diamonds aren't really that big. Like, if you see a lot of people with different dimple piercings, you will see some really huge balls on people's faces. Like, people, like, everybody has their own taste, child. Mine would be considered dainty just as is, because these are flat back piercings, and they're not big, they're not boisterous, they're not in your face. But I want to go even smaller than this. I want to go even daintier than this. And I want like some diamonds, you know what I'm saying? So if I had known initially that I could decide or agree upon a gauge with the dimple piercings, I would have done that with my piercer. But at the same time, I had a really great piercer who was very aware of the ups and downs of dimple piercings, and so she really guided me. So I know that she chose what was best for me, and we bless God. Okay, so keep in mind, it depends on, so when you get different gauges, it's going to depend on the type of skin you have. Some people have Teflon skin, child. You understand me? Thick, just unbreakable. Come on, Alicia Keys, unbreakable. Some people have that. And then some people, or in some areas that you want to be pierced, it may be very sensitive. It may be low levels of skin, like on the face. So you may not have a lot of skin there. So if you don't have a lot of skin there, then, and you want to get dainty piercings, you may be able to. So just keep this in mind when you're asking other people what they think and what they got. Remember, they don't have your skin and they don't have your body makeup. Okay, keep that in mind. Also, let me see. I try no shoes. Okay, so I think that's it. Let me know if you have any questions. I tried to make this as clear as possible, which is why I said a lot of things over and over and over again, so that you can understand it and comprehend it. If you have any questions or anything you would love to add to this, leave the comments down below, and you already know I will answer them or do a video on it. And yeah, don't forget to check out Skipper's Sweet Cheeks and be good to your piercings. If you have any questions, you guys, if you're following me, you already know I do not mind answering. I was once looking for all of the information that I'm providing to you guys, so by any means necessary, let me know. Also, I get a lot of people saying that they're getting bumps or they're getting certain things on the outside of their piercing. They're asking me about it. Because I can't see it, it's hard to really tell like what's going on. So feel free to send your pictures in if you want to. If you don't want the pictures to be shown, that's fine. I don't need to show them to do a video on what you're asking me. But if you want to send me a picture of like, T, this is my face and I don't know, like, did you go through this? If I went through it, I will completely tell you that I did and tell you what I did. If I did not go through that, I will tell you that, and I'm not going to make up any advice. For some people, the advice will be you need to go see a doctor. You may have fluid on your cheeks and it needs to be drained. You know, it's different things like that. But don't be shy, because this is the perfect time to ask the questions while you are still looking to get the piercing, or while you're in the beginning stages, or just while you have breath in your body. It's never too late to ask questions. Okay, y'all, I'm out of here. That's all my time, and I'll see y'all next time y'all see me, okay?